And hello, everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. Tonight, we're going to talk with a senator from Oregon, my home state, and where most of our audience is. Lots of concerns, lots of people coming on my page and saying, oh my gosh, we do a segment with Bill London that we sponsor. If you guys ever want to keep weekly available and know what's going on in the state, we have a crazy Oregon news segment that we have on YouTube. And it gets tens of thousands of views from people who've moved all over the country because they want to keep up on what's going on. There's a lot of people that leave like me, and we still love Oregon. And so we're concerned, and we want to continue to stir the stuff so that Oregon can get to some state of normalcy, if that's even possible. Our sponsors for the show: Albert Taylor, Endless Possibilities, working with people with different abilities out of Eugene and Springfield. If you're looking for a career change, they are the place to look. And Christian Family Dentistry, Mike Bratlin, he loves these kind of conversations where people are involved. He wants to make sure censorship is never an acceptable thing, despite what Kate Brown tried to do when she was governor. And we're going to thank him for being our sponsor. So joining me now is Senator Bruce Starr. Hello, Bruce. How you doing?
Doing great.
So my first question for you, just to give a little background here, you just can't stay away, can you?
Yeah, kind of.
Because you were a senator back when I ran for Secretary of State. And you served your time, you did your thing, then you went back to the regular world. And then what made you decide to come back and be a senator in Oregon again?
Well, so my wife and I, born and raised in Washington County, Hillsborough area. And that's where I'd served in the Hillsborough City Council and then the legislature there for 20 years, actually. But during COVID, my wife and I moved from Washington County to Yamhill County. So we got out of the Portland metro area, kind of went over Chehalis Mountain to Dundee, where we live now. I didn't move with the intention to run for the legislature. People might think there was some grand scheme, but there wasn't. We just found a great place we wanted to move to. And so that's what happened. And real quickly, I was in town in Dundee for a year or so, and the mayor knocked on my door and said, "Hey, we got a vacancy on the Dundee City Council. Would you be interested?" And my family, Rick.
It's kind of genetic in your family, though.
There is. So it's public service is something that was kind of bred into my brothers and myself. So when I was asked to serve on the council, my gut reaction is yes. Of course I want to serve. So I was appointed to the council. And then we went through that process where a certain number of senators, I think, did their constitutional duty and ultimately walked out of the legislative process because that's what their constituents would have wanted them to do. When they did that, they got crosswise with the constitutional amendments that said they couldn't run for re-election. And I happened to live in one of those senators' districts, Senator Brian Boquist. And again, I hadn't planned on this. It wasn't kind of in a big master plan, but I was asked to consider. And my wife and I are at a different stage in our life than we were earlier, and our kids are out of the house and kind of empty nesters, and recognize that there's a loss of institutional knowledge, kind of a loss of folks that have background in the process, and so. We decided to do it, and here we are. So called to serve, and I have a hard time saying no when asked.
Well, and Oregon needs common sense. That's what I hear I know you hear it. I hear it all the time. It's like we who's representing our point of view? Because what people outside of Oregon, because we have a large Montana group in here too watching, that there's the valley runs everything, and then you got all these rural places. And they don't, they're not in line with, these are people that go to work every day and they know the difference between a man and a woman, and,
right.
And they have nobody in state government to say, yes, that's a boy, that's a girl.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things you and I talked about just prior to this, and you reminded me that I got this note from people. Tell people about this diesel truck mandate was this Kate Brown, the former governor, that signed this thing into law? Explain to people what it is and why. I mean, this is like nuts.
Yeah, so it's the Advanced Clean Trucks rule.
Oh,
Um, and so, and it was an executive order that the governor signed. It wasn't a law. She just created law kind of out of whole cloth, and directed the Department of Environmental Quality to go through a process to eliminate carbon out of the fuel system. And part of that um, was basically saying it's a ramp up period, but basically getting rid of diesel powered vehicles, diesel powered trucks, from your small delivery vehicles, but all the way up to the Class 8s, those 18 wheelers that are hauling freight all over America. The goal, the idea is to replace those big diesel vehicles with all electric. So,
oh, there, that's good.
yeah, it's in a utopia. Maybe it makes sense, but so just this year, the impact of that rule was taking shape, where um, manufacturers of those heavy trucks, they have to, in order to sell any diesel powered vehicles, they have to sell a certain number of all electric vehicles. Well, those all electric vehicles, they one they're at least twice as expensive as a diesel truck, heavy truck. They haul about a third of what a regular truck can haul because their batteries are so heavy.
Yeah.
And they go about half the distance that per day that a regular diesel truck can go.
So,
So
Senator, let me ask you this. So, I know there's way more. You guys, you're going to love this because it just gets weirder and weirder. This is like, I feel like we're in Washington, D.C. talking about Doge. But it gets crazy because, so if they haul less, they are as inefficient in terms of, using how they get things there.
right.
Um, we know let's see, who's going to pick up the bill for that, do you think? All that consumer goods that come to you and me, I bet the corporations and businesses will eat that, and they
Of
won't
course.
take it down and charge it to you and me and all the other little Oregonian people out there.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to work. I mean, ultimately, if you end up hauling, half of the freight, you need two trucks to replace a regular diesel truck, which means you're spending four times as much. Plus, you have two drivers. I mean, it's
But
so even if the trucks existed, there's one charging unit that is in the state of Oregon, one to charge these vehicles, and it's at the Swan Island manufacturing facility of Daimler, who actually is in the truck building business. It cost them $2 million in 2 years to put that charging station in, based on all the permitting and the process to get it going. So that is one of the challenges that this state has faced right now. We as Republicans, Representative Shelley Bossart Davis on the House side, she has a bill that's had a hearing that basically said, we're not going to argue about climate. We're just going to state the facts, and the facts are that the technology isn't available right now to accommodate this mandate. And so the bill basically said, we just want to have a pause for 2 years. You would think that would be with people with, as you mentioned, common sense.
Yeah.
Would look at all the facts and say, well, that makes sense. Let's pause this program so that the technology potentially catches up with the reality. What do you think the majority Democrats in this building have done with that bill?
They're fighting it, aren't they?
Well, they haven't fought it, but they're not moving it.
So they're just letting it sit there.
Just letting it sit there. So it's and our program is modeled after the California program. And
Well, yeah, there. That's a let's
doesn't
follow
that make sense?
Newscomb into the hole.
Yeah.
Here's the pit, and we're gonna just drive our electric diesel,
Well,
non-diesel trucks right over the edge into the cliff.
well, so clearly Oregon and California have so much in common, right?
Yeah,
You know, not really. The situation in California is different because they actually can have electrified vehicles that do very small trips in within the ports. They have huge ports in California where electric trucks kind of work, kind of, and so they can kind of meet these requirements in California.
but those are cars. Those aren't like trucks, though. Is it
Well,
I'm guessing it's a special unit that does a truck.
yeah, it's but they're hauling the containers in ports.
Okay.
So in California, they kind of can do it, kind of. But in the rest of the country, it doesn't make any sense at all. But here's the catch. Here's the beautiful thing that hopefully will help us all. And God bless America for electing Donald Trump on November 5th.
No kidding.
So the reason California can have its own rules as it relates to all of this is because they got a waiver from the federal government. Because generally you can't have special rules on emissions for one state. I mean, generally that's an interstate commerce thing where that way freight can move freely across all of the states, correct? Right? That makes sense. Well, California got this waiver under the Obama administration to go down this road on, creating their own program. We believe that there's a large potential that a EPA administrator Zeldin under the Trump administration will repeal or rescind that waiver. And this challenge that Oregonians, Oregon business, and the freight community in our state and really across the country will go away.
Well, Bruce, it just shows how out of touch Brown and the current governor Kotek are with what,
Completely.
how do you think, how is that going to work when you have a state that how long it takes to get from Medford to Portland, where this one unit is to charge these trucks is? So how are people going? How does that work? Oh, I'm going to go to Burns, Oregon, and then I got to drive all the way to Portland and probably run out of juice before I get there. I mean, it's absolutely asinine.
No, it's crazy stupid. And nobody calls stupid anymore because we're too polite.
Who when Governor Brown signed that, did she do it in the dark of night or when everybody was on their COVID lockdown with their masks over their face? I mean, how did she get that through?
Well, it was the executive order. So it was done with the stroke of a pen. Her original executive order what she was sued and the business community won, and she undid her first executive order and rewrote it. And so, but the reality is that's the governing class in our state right now, and they're beholden to the the radical environmental community that visualizes this utopia, right? That doesn't exist in the real world. That's the reality. It doesn't exist in the real world.
So, talk to me about I know that the Doge people sent out notices to the education departments and saying, you guys got to get online with this. You got 14 days that, to the DEI stuff out of the schools and get back to just educating kids. Oregon, your governor, I'm not blaming you because I know you didn't vote for her. I can assume, but she has budgeted over the next 12 years, which she's not even there 12 years, but $12 million. I think I'm accurate, but I know it's at least $1 million this year to fight Trump on any of this stuff. Can they pull I've heard they can pull federal funding from the schools if they don't abide by the federal law.
Yeah. So the issues around, it's not just DEI, but it's sanctuary status. Oregon has a statute that we're a sanctuary state. You've got obviously very progressive cities in Portland and Eugene and other places in Oregon that are sanctuary cities. And so you've got these issues of what ultimately does that relationship between the states and the feds, how does it work? I think that the majority, the governor here in this state and the Democratic majority are willing to put federal funds at risk for them to die on the DEI hill and on, the protecting illegal aliens that are in our state. That's what it seems like right now to me, that they're willing to, rather than open up lines of communication with the federal government, which to me would make sense.
Right.
They're suing the federal government instead. And, when push comes to shove, and honestly, Rick, a lot of this is so early in this transition.
Right.
It's a little bit amorphous, a little bit hard to understand, and we haven't gotten clear direction from, our Ways and Means, our budget writing folks. And honestly, the Trump doesn't have all of his team in place yet. And they're still in the process in DC of doing some house cleaning. So it's still early in this process. But I have little faith that the majority and the governor in this state are going to, pick up again. I think they should pick up the phone and say, hey, how do we work together? Instead, it's resist.
Right. I was listening to a podcast this morning with the Attorney General in Texas, and he was talking about sanctuary cities and said this is completely illegal because you're going against the federal government, and the federal government has a priority on immigration. I mean, It's not up to the states, it's up to them. So when you've got districts, like we have districts here not here, but in Eugene area, and they're actually sending out notices to their teachers telling them not to. I got some from some teachers. They sent them to me, and they were told as teachers not to let this information out. And they're telling them, this is what you do if ICE comes in. You protect that kid. You don't let them talk to him. You don't let them take him out. So you're instructing your teachers to behave in an illegal criminal fashion rather than going and following the law. Those are school district officials. I can't believe that they can still be there.
Yeah, no, those are local government officials that are instructing their employees to do that. That's similar messages have been sent to state employees as well. So it's not just at the local level.
What do you see as the hopeful things it's just for people who aren't in Oregon, or some of you who are in Oregon that don't understand and don't pay attention. Oregon has a super duper majority of Democrats. There's not much the Republicans can do at this point because of how people have voted to stop tax increases or anything really. What are some bright spots for you coming in as a Republican? And because I don't mean to be Mr. Doom and Gloom guy, but that's pretty much a factual account.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll just tell you on the wildfire map issue. Thousands of Oregonians have lit up this building through phone calls and emails about how that wildfire map has impacted them. Obviously, Republicans are listening. We had a press conference yesterday. We've got legislation that's sponsored by Senator Robinson and Senator Bonham that would repeal the entire program. That was part of our message yesterday. Well, the governor, we publicized the fact that we were going to have this press conference, and the governor issued basically a pause to that program. Landowners still have to file their appeals, but she's given kind of a pause through the end of the legislative session, assuming that the legislature is going to quote unquote fix or solve this problem. So is there positive? The positive thing is when Oregonians light up their elected officials, and by light up, I mean email, call, and not just, if you're from rural Oregon and you're represented by a Republican who agrees with you, email the other members of the legislature. Every elected official, every legislator in this building, while we represent one corner of our state, the policies that we jointly create impact the entire state.
Right.
So that's why making sure that even the legislators in Portland hear from you if you're in rural Oregon about these issues. It does make a difference. And the governor is not completely immune to that kind of public pressure. And and at some level, I believe that that there will be, at least on that issue, a solution, hopefully, that comes out of it.
So for those that don't know, there's a map that was created, ordered by, I think it was Kate Brown, wasn't it, the legislature, and it was a map that says what areas are potentially dangerous. We did a podcast on this like 5 months ago when it first came out, and the map is completely inaccurate. There's places, has Gold Beach, Oregon, as a place, and people are finding they can't get fire insurance because the insurance, and they were told when this passed that it would not be used by insurance companies to raise their rates. Well, of course, if an insurance company, I mean, I don't even blame them. If you see that this is a high risk area, you're going to raise the rates. So this is what's happening. And what Bruce is saying to all you people out there is, the Republicans may not be able to change everything, but when you speak as a group of people, right, and you light up the state capitol, all the, and be kind when you do this. If you call up a Starr or somebody like that and you start, "You son of a bitch," and you're yelling at them, they're not going to listen to you. I mean, they'll listen maybe probably, okay, but you're not going to gain any territory.
Right.
Express your opinions and you guys can make change. Oregon, what's good about this, Bruce, really, I like what you're saying here, because Republicans aren't in charge of changing this. You're part of that process. But this is about people in Oregon. If you want to see stuff change, then get rid of your vote by mail if you don't like it. If you don't like this stuff, go in there and light up the phones about every issue. Don't wait till it's something that just impacts you. Wait till it's that you know of, because look at this. And I think the same thing kind of happened with the diesel bullshit, because all of a sudden I started seeing farmers and Eastern Oregoners and people like that just screaming about this because it was so ridiculous. But really, the people have to change this, don't they, Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes, and I think with a cumulative effort, we're seeing it on this on the wildfire risk map. Again, we don't control the process, but we do have folks on the other side of the aisle that can't ignore Oregonians that are calling them and writing them letters. And you're correct. All that the citizens have to do is just tell their story, because their stories are compelling. When you got a retired couple who live in rural area and it's a retirement, and all of a sudden, their homeowners insurance has been canceled because in theory they're in a wildfire risk hazard area, when in reality they're not. I mean, those kinds of stories are compelling. And I gave a speech on the Senate floor this morning, and I said, the Legislative Assembly collective is not immune to making mistakes. We're human beings, and sometimes we get it wrong. And that isn't what that means. Is that we need to reverse course and fix our errors. And in my previous service, I mean, there were times when we did things that didn't work, and we had to come back a session later or two and say, you know what, that didn't really work, and we undid what we had done before. I mean, there's nothing wrong with recognizing that you might have done what you did for a good reason, and it was for a good purpose, but the results didn't turn out the way you had hoped they did. So that's what we need to do ultimately.
Don't you find it interesting that they come up with these fire maps and all this bullshit stuff, and what Oregon needs to do is just better management of the forests.
Hello.
I mean, it's a map isn't going to do shit, but you get the Forest Service and the BLM and everybody out there together and get rid of the HCP, and start managing the forests for what they are. They're a farm for trees. And you know what? All that fire bullshit would go away.
Rick, it so frustrates me in this process because we don't deal with root causes.
Yeah.
We don't deal with root causes. We try to minimize the consequences of actions that, policies that have been adopted over time. And generally the the solution is, oh, let's take money from Oregonians and spend it over here. And if we spend enough money over here, it'll minimize the problems with housing. It'll minimize the problems with wildfires. It's going to minimize the problems with the homeless. We're going to take money from here and give it to this, to this particular nonprofit. And God love them, they're gonna solve this problem. We don't deal with root causes, and the root cause of wildfires, you've nailed it. It is management of the forest.
Right.
I mean, it's clear as day. I mean, you've been in the forest. You've been on private forest land. I'm sure
Right.
that you can see has been managed, and then you're on a fence line or a property line where it's public. It's either state or federal, and it is as thick as you can't see through it, and it's got all that underbrush, and it's just tinder dry. And when those fires come through, it burns and burns and burns and burns.
And what's sad about it is that so the private landowners are doing the right thing on their property. Yeah. But then right next door, you have federal property. So it's like living next to a shitty trailer house. You know what I mean? You're in a neighborhood and you're taking care of your property and the neighbors next door aren't doing anything. Right. And that's what Oregon's forests look like. So talk to me a little bit about what are the possibilities of tax increases? Because I know that's one thing. When you have a supermajority, the Democrats don't have to, you guys can't really do anything to stop them from raising taxes in Oregon. And they're talking about raising taxes.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you're right. The Democrats do have a super majority. So that's 36 members in the House and 18 members in the Senate. Those are the votes they need to raise taxes. And I don't have a all-inclusive list in front of me of all the taxes that have been proposed. But I will tell you one thing. The chairman of the Senate Finance and Revenue Committee is Senator Mark Meek. Okay. He's from Clackamas County. So you may recall, not last election, but the election before when he was elected. So that would have been in the 22 election cycle. He won his race by 500 votes, about somewhere in there. So he barely won that seat. It's really a swing district in Clackamas County.
Okay.
He's the chair of the Revenue Committee. I don't think he's going to be super excited about passing massive new taxes on Oregonians and having to go back to his constituents in a swing district and try to tell them why when they send, about $130 billion are spent in a biennium in this state. $130 billion.
Wow.
That Oregonians need to send more of their tax money to Salem. So tax measures have to start in the House. I think the House Democrats are, and this is just my impression, they're more progressive, maybe more liberal than the Senate Democrats, though, we have our share on the Senate side as well. We did have the quote from the good representative from Milwaukee. He called Oregonians petulant children for not wanting to raise taxes. I don't know if you saw that quote, but it made the rounds. So.
Oh well, I've been called deplorable by Hillary Clinton. So hey, whatever, you know.
Petulant children for not.
I think that's a compliment. I take that as a compliment.
So, the kicker is someone always wants to take the kicker and, and spend it on something. The one thing I know in my, previous service and government, public service is there's never a short supply of good things that you can do with other people's money.
Yeah. And when you don't see their face, right. It's really easy to just see tax dollars as this program to do wonderful things for somebody else, but you're not seeing the little old people, the people you were talking about that are about to lose their home, all the on a fixed income retirement people, and they're paying for these programs to make the progressives feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Bruce, one of the things I see a lot on comments, we're getting a ton of comments here right now, but a lot of comments is, we need a Doge in Oregon.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be. I mean, Oregon. You've lived here. I mean, you don't now, but you've lived here. Oregon is an awesome place to live.
Oh,
I mean, it is maybe one of the most beautiful, or the most beautiful place in all the earth. And yet we're run in a way that is chasing entrepreneurs out of here, chasing capital out of our state. We don't have the Fortune 500 businesses like we used to that were located in Portland. I mean, to a large degree, except for a couple, they have moved to other places. Oregon could be Florida if we had the right leadership.
Yep.
It could be Florida.
Yeah.
And what it requires is that Doge kind of mentality where we're going to revamp and reform state government. And it's really a change in leadership. We've lived with basically the same kind of philosophy since 1986 in the governor's office, and year after year after year, and quite honestly, in the last maybe 12 years, those Democrat executives have gotten more aggressive and more progressive, and more, I believe, out of touch with the vast majority of Oregonians, though they keep getting elected.
I think you're absolutely 100% right. And I think there's enough people, like what you were just saying, what gives me hope is when that many people call about the diesel truck, about the fire map, and people are getting involved, because I think nationally we're learning that it's okay to speak up. And in Oregon, people need to speak up and really say, this is my state, and this is where I live. You're supposed to be representing me. And then they always are like, term limits. Well, you have that. All you have to do is vote no for the person who's in the seat, who's not doing the job that you think they're doing. And so it's paying attention. I think a lot of people on here are saying too, we need to get rid of vote by mail. And I'm living in Montana now, Bruce, it's like, I love going to the polls. I love showing my driver's license and having somebody look at it and check it and say, yes, you have value. You're a Montanan, you get to vote. There's some respect in that. And you got to ask people, if you don't want to show ID, what are you hiding? And, somebody said to me the other day, you probably ended up beating Kate Brown and you were Secretary of State. You just didn't know it. And I said, well, thank God that didn't happen.
Oh, I don't know, man. Governor Dancer has a ring to it.
God, they'd crucify me. Bruce, thank you so much for, is there anything else that you have in your head that you think people need to be updated? There's a lot of people paying attention to this.
Yeah, so I would just say that we are in the middle of a discussion about transportation, and the presiding officers have asked me to help to identify places where we can find efficiencies in the department. I mean, that potentially becomes a bipartisan effort, and we'll see what the outcome ultimately does, or where that ultimately goes. But that could be something pretty significant coming out of this legislature.
Well, and so that's kind of we won't call it Doge because that'll make people upset, but that's really what people are asking for is efficiency and using my tax dollars wisely, which is kind of what blows me away nationally, is when they're uncovering all this stuff and the Social Security stuff they just found. It's like, oh my God,
And the Democrats are having a heart attack over what they're doing at the national level when we're spending $2 trillion in a year more than we're bringing in. We cannot continue to do that and survive as a nation. The work has to be done.
We're worried about Social Security, and we just found out we have more people on the rolls than we have people in the United States. Now, whether I'm a Democrat or a progressive or a liberal or a conservative or a libertarian or a Green Party, I should be pissed off and going, wait a minute, you're putting my Social Security at risk by giving money to what we don't even know what.
Exactly right. Yeah. So as it relates to the Department of Transportation, we're asking the question: Is it core to their mission? and their core mission is having roads and bridges that operate efficiently, effectively, so moms and dads can get their kids to soccer practice and they can get to work and freight can move efficiently in our state. If it's not core to that mission, then maybe it's things that would be nice to do, and if we had, tons of resources. But when we're in a resource constricted environment, maybe it's time to say no, and we have to prioritize spending. So those are the questions we're asking. We'll see if we have help on the other side of the aisle at the end of the day. But that's something that we're certainly working on. And Representative Bossart Davis and myself, and we've got really good staff, both in the House Republican office and Senate Republican office, that are helping us with that.
Bruce, several people on here are saying, thank you, Mr. Starr, for doing what you're doing and stuff like that. I think people do appreciate people that are fighters. And I think Trump kind of cleared that way. You know what I mean? And what we learned from Trump, I think, for me, is like when you open your mouth and people start screaming garbage at you, that means you hit a nerve, and that means you keep going. You don't slow down. You just keep pushing forward. And I hope that Oregonians will feel that and do that, because my best day would be, on a day when I have to think and go, God, Oregon's so great now. It's like much more fair, and they got mail-in ballot. Maybe we're going to move back. That'd be a good day when you think that it's turned around. And I know there's a lot of people and I appreciate everybody that stays there. I think there's a bunch of us, and there's obviously a bunch of people on here who have left, but we all still love Oregon and we're concerned for it. And I'm not going to shut up. I get people going, you can't talk about it anymore. You don't live here. And oh, hell, I can't, Now I can do it. And you can't scream at me at the grocery store. Bruce, thank you so much. And I love that what your family does. And it's nice that I was so pleased when I saw your name back on. I went, Bruce Starr, he's back, but he's still bald and he looks younger than me. I hate this. Well, you are younger than me, but you look younger than I look way older than I did back then. But thank you for doing what you do and coming back in and fighting, because obviously we need you, and the Republicans need you, and not even just the Republicans. It's like balance needs you.
We need balance. Yeah, we're working hard. I mean, we've got an election coming up, and we've got to spread the word, recruit good candidates, and we got work to do. We're not giving up. I'm not giving up. And so, all your listeners, stay tuned, because while we're in session now, we're going to transition right out of here into an election season when we've got to elect more Republicans.
And I'm seeing some names on here. I won't call anybody out, but I know that they're wanting to run for governor in the future, because I've seen stuff about this person. So getting more concerned people on here. That's what we need. More people that are willing to fight. So, hey, Bruce, when something comes up, let me know, because I'd love to have you on anytime. This is fun. And I think people
I appreciate it.
need to be inspired like that. Okay.
Sounds great. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rick.
See you, buddy. Bye-bye. So there again, it falls back on you guys, really. You know what I mean? You got people like Bruce and other Republicans, and they're in the minority, super minority, and they're doing what they can. But you heard what he said. You guys made noise about the fire maps, and now the governor's having second thoughts. You guys made noise about the diesel trucks, and that's coming back, to haunt them. So, the moral of the story is, like he said, tell your story, let them know, and don't just call your legislator or your senator, call other ones, let people know. And for God's sake, be nice. Don't be a Democrat. Don't, I'm so sick of it, and I don't even care. And they can hate me if they want. I don't care. But don't be them and go in and just belittle people and scream at them and tell them how horrible they are. And you son of a bitch, you're not listening to me, and blah, blah, blah. Because nobody's going to listen to that. I don't. When somebody writes that on my page, I don't listen to it. I just ignore them, because they're obviously suffering with something they need therapy for, and I'm not their therapist. So in your case, don't be that. Be kind and considerate, firm, have your points in order, and make your phone call or write your letter and stand up for your state. If you love Oregon, you're going to have to love her to death. And that means you're going to have to stand up for her in a way that you never have before. And you can't rely on the politicians. It's not even rely on. You can't lay it on the politicians. It's too far for that. Oregon suffered with apathy for way too long. And now in order to get there, you're going to have to grab it by the balls and go. So that means you have to be Oregon. Please take this, share it on your page, let other people see it so that don't know who we are and what we do. That'd be super helpful for me, but also for you as a state. And yeah, if you have ideas for stories or stuff like that, let me know. Also, check out our YouTube page. Every Thursday or Friday, we usually post a Crazy Oregon News segment with Bill London that I sponsor, because I had so many people ask me, where do I find real news in Oregon? And that's what we're giving you. So you will find real news, real information, stuff you're not going to see on brand KGW or some other TV station, and you're not going to see it in your Statesman Journal. This is stuff that is Bill goes to work and finds it. So that's kind of what we're doing, and you got to go do your stuff. I'm sitting in snow, like 1.5 feet of snow, wondering if I'm going to get in my driveway. But that's because I live in Montana. But you guys had snow this week, I know, that's great. All right, share it on your page. We do this. We will be back. We usually do another show on Tuesday nights. We will probably be back on Thursday night to do another show where I'll read more of your comments. When I have a guest, it's hard to read all your comments, but they can go back and I can go back and see them. Thank you for being here. It's good having you, and have a great evening, and spread the love, people. And God bless Doge and Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all those people who are working to make America great again. Don't be embarrassed. We didn't have nothing to be embarrassed about. And I'll tell you, once you get outside the Oregon border, once you get outside the I-5 corridor, common sense still rules. It really does. Common sense is still the rule. And the truth always sets us free. And it's always found eventually. Good night.